let's speak a moment about garnishments. And that's a long subject. In Virginia, there are wage garnishments and also garnishments of bank accounts. In some states, wage garnishments are not allowed, but here they're quite common, or they're authorized by the General Assembly and they're quite common. The lender can garnish up to 25% of your wages after the payment of payroll taxes. And I'm sure if you receive the garnishment, you're aware that that's quite oppressive. I understand in some states, such as Michigan, the court will actually undertake a determination of what you can afford to pay. The Virginia General Assembly has not done that, and the creditor takes 25% of your wages after the payment of payroll taxes and child support obligations. So can you get that money back? Well, the lawyerly answer is it depends. When you received your garnishment, there is a court hearing called the return date. If you file your bankruptcy prior to the return date, in 99.9% of all cases, you can get your money back. You assert an exemption to those garnished funds and you get them back. If you don't file your bankruptcy by the return date, you file the bankruptcy after the return date of the garnishment, meaning the money has now been paid over to the creditor. Bankruptcy law allows you to go back 90 days from the date of the garnishment filing. And that's somewhat kind of a hassle to figure out, because you literally have to get a spreadsheet. You look at each paycheck and then you find out what is in the 90-day preference period. Now, when the bankruptcy is filed, in the non-preference situation, when the bankruptcy is filed, we send notices to the bankruptcy court and to the creditor that you have filed for bankruptcy. Unfortunately, the court does not act right away in releasing the garnishment. It normally takes about 10 days. And the check from your payroll department was sent to the court. So 10 days after your bankruptcy filing, the clerk of court will send your paychecks that were garnished back to your employer. Now, if your employer uses ADP, I have some bad news for you. The ADP has outsourced its garnishment department out of country. And the good folks out of country apparently don't have access to all of your company's accounting records. And because they're sort of acting using computer records remotely from around the world, they frequently lose your money, or it takes them an inordinate amount of time to get the money back to you. Normally, the money is returned to you, say, about 3 weeks from the bankruptcy filing. But in the case of ADP, I've had clients who never received their money. It just is gone. And if you are your employer does use ADP, which many do, what I would ask you to do is to go to your human resources manager and tell the human resources manager that these are the funds that are being garnished, and this Paige or my staff will actually give you a letter that highlights the garnished funds. And you would go to your payroll clerk and your human resources manager and say, could you please be out on the lookout for this check because I did file for bankruptcy, and I've been told that ADP frequently loses these, and I think if the squeaky wheel gets oiled. And so if we work from our end and you get your human resources manager to work from their end, I think it's likely you will get your garnished funds. One thing that makes the garnishment difficult is sometimes clients are garnished by more than one employer, or rather more than one creditor at one time. And so what happens is you can actually have several garnishments stacked up on top of each other. The first garnishment that the employer receives is paid first, and then the second garnishment is paid, and then the third is paid. So sometimes we can file for bankruptcy and we have a difficult time finding out who has the garnished funds. And what you have to do is go to the payroll clerk of your employer and find out specifically what garnishment was being paid for each paycheck, because it can vary. And that creates quite a difficult situation for you and my staff but the person who knows is the payroll clerk.